Yeah, okay, let's start. I It's like already 5 minutes. Maybe some more people will join, but yeah, let's start. Hi everyone. So today's session will be about network and how networking and how network is your net worth and how to build your professional relationships using LinkedIn. And yeah, it will be conducted by Raj Samal, who is the APAC sales director of Entropik. As you might know, Entropik has already worked with us on a project, and we hope that we will work with them in future as well. So Raj has about 12 years of corporate experience, and out of which 8 years is like in sales. He has his significant chunk of experience is in software as service growth and business development. And currently, he looks after Southeast Asia, India, and um, the whole APAC region for sales. Yeah, so over to you, Raj. Let's start.
Use the system, but we'll get started again. Primarily, we want to talk about LinkedIn today in terms of building your professional network. Hi, everyone. I'm Raj Samal. I've been here in Entropik for a while. And before this, I was in High Radius, mainly into business development and growth. So, this is a little bit of my network in LinkedIn. And I wanted to start with the end result first. What have I been able to achieve from LinkedIn? And how can it be replicated across everyone else who is in the meeting today? So here's an example of the power of network. I wanted a friend of mine wanted to join an organization, and we were struggling with how would this organization be, what would be the style of working with a particular person, and I used LinkedIn to connect with someone within the organization, and we're able to get information from the organization as well. Here's an example of a person who reached out to me after I had left my previous organization, and they wanted to look into the tool and see if they can build something out of this particular tool. And here's a third example where I was actually looking out for a person, and we wanted to reach out to my network to figure out if they have someone within their reference, which I can directly work with. And these are people that I have met once or who are very good in the network, or probably people who have met for the first time. So that's the power of network. That's the power of LinkedIn. If you use it very effectively, you can learn a lot from your peers. You can learn a lot from your seniors and execs, and how you can use this system. So getting into what LinkedIn connection is all about. So primarily, just like everything else in life, LinkedIn is a game of probability. So what it means is the more number of connections request that you send, the higher chance it is to increase your own network. But how do you make sure that the connections request that you are sending to someone is perceived properly by the other person, and the other person also adds you into his or her network? So here's some basic on LinkedIn. LinkedIn connections, any connection out there in LinkedIn would either be directly connected with you. So that's the first degree of connections. So these are people you have directly connected to because you have accepted their invitation or they have accepted your invitation. So on the bottom right side, you can see a first level of connection between me and a person called as Pawan. In the second degree of connection, so everyone who is connected to my first degree is my second degree of connections. So people whom I'm connected to via my first degree, these would be the second degree of connections. And more often than not, you can send them an invitation by clicking on the connect button. And the third degree of connection is people who are not at all connected to me by my first degree. So this is people who are connected most likely by my third degree of connections. So here's an example of a founder and CEO of Tokopedia, and you can see there's third degree written here. There is one more connection, Ashish, where you can see that second degree connection is written here. So LinkedIn gives you a proper insight into whether the person is connected to you whether the person is second degree connection or third degree connection. Before I proceed into how do you mine or how do you, like get more people into your first degree, what do you do after the first degree connection is built, and how do you connect with people in the third degree? I would just want to take a pause and see if there are any questions that you have at this point. All right. I mean, if there are no questions, we'll get ahead. So this is a little bit of statistics on my own LinkedIn. This is the total number of connections that I have. It's roughly 7,500 connections. But it's not like every person that I have ever connected to in LinkedIn accepts my connection. I started off with a number which was around 100 LinkedIn connects. And over the last 6.5 years, I grew my connections from 100 LinkedIn connects to roughly 7,500 LinkedIn connects. On the right hand side, you can see that there are a lot of people who have not really accepted my connection. So, what did it take for me to grow my LinkedIn network from 100 LinkedIn connects to roughly 7,500? It's mainly persistence, patience, and skill set. So, for persistence, like you have to do it on a weekly activity kind of a scale. So, you have to send the right connection to the right people on a weekly basis. Patience, because not everyone out there would want to connect with you right away. And skill set, because again, there are certain things that you can do to make sure that the people that you reach out to, the probability of them accepting your connections is way higher. So this is what it needs to build the connections. I'll start off with the first degree. So again, if you think about LinkedIn, it's a social media. And what does a social media really replicate? It replicates a human life connections. So what it means is there would be a lot of people whom you would know over the period of your life. So these would be people whom you studied together with either in your school or colleges. You might have worked in 2, 3 different work environment or organizations. These could be UX leaders whom you aspire to become. These could be key researchers or real life friend and extended family. The probability of you sending a LinkedIn connects to any one of them and getting a LinkedIn acceptance from these people is quite high. It's more than 60 to 70%. Because LinkedIn is probably the only social media where a person who accepts your connection has a low entry friction. So, what I mean by that is probably in Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, or other social media, person should know you in real life before really accepting your connections. But in LinkedIn, they should just know you, or they should know that, okay, he's a friend of friend or a colleague of my colleague, or he's also in the research domain and he wants to just learn about the research domain. So that is how you increase your probability of your first level of connections. And generally, this is my advice to people who are with a LinkedIn connect of, let's say, 50 or less connections. So then who is more likely to accept your LinkedIn request? Obviously, as we discussed in the previous slide, these are people who know you in real life, but that is not enough. So people whom you know in real life and are active in LinkedIn, this combination is the ideal combination for them to accept your LinkedIn Connect. So let me just show you how you can track activities in LinkedIn as well. So let me take an example over here. So let's say we select a person out here. Let's take Krishna Prasad into account. So how do you know whether Krishna Prasad is very active in LinkedIn? So you have a tab here which talks about activity, and you can see that Krishna Prasad is actually looking into a lot of posts. He's commenting on these posts. He's looking into some of the other things that he has reposted. So you can see the activity is quite high for him. So that's, let's say I know this person in real life and he is active in LinkedIn. The moment I send a LinkedIn connection, there's a very high probability that he will accept my LinkedIn connections. So this is how you typically build your first level of LinkedIn connections. Any questions before I go to the next part, which is second level? All right. So let me get into the second level. So the second level is people who have at least 5 mutual connects. So let's say you're connected to someone. Now that person's entire network is available to you in terms of second level mutual connections. So anyone who has typically more than 5 or more mutual connects would most likely accept your LinkedIn request. And the last one is a shortcut, or what I call as a tip and trick to add more LinkedIn connects. More often than not, I've seen that in Southeast Asia and in India, you have a lot of HR managers who would want to recruit people. So these people would be accepting a lot of LinkedIn connects, and their cutoff is actually 30,000 connects. So the moment you add a LinkedIn connect to a known HR or an HR that you vaguely know, the person will most likely accept your connect. Now, who are you in LinkedIn matters a lot. It shows that here is a real human and not a fake bot that we are talking to. So what can you do from your own LinkedIn profile to increase your social media count and presence in LinkedIn? The first is you should have if you have a professional headshot, then nothing like it, but you should have a photograph in your LinkedIn profile. So generally the probability of someone accepting your LinkedIn profile increases by roughly 30% if you have a photograph in your LinkedIn profile. There should be a little bit of what you do, what's your role and responsibility in a particular company, and that's about it. So the moment you have these two details, the likelihood of someone accepting your LinkedIn connect out of these three parameters increases drastically. So that's on the first level of LinkedIn Connect. Now I want to talk about how can you increase your LinkedIn connects at a second level. So this is what you can do. So you can look for LinkedIn connects that you know on a real life. So here's an example of a person that I took from Entropik, who is my second level LinkedIn connect. And one question out here is to figure out, like what search really works better. Is it LinkedIn? Is it Google? So we can just take an example of someone in the team. So let me just do a quick exercise out here. Would someone want to volunteer with your name? All right. So I'll probably go with Eunice, if that's okay. So here's the full name of Eunice, which is Eunice Siu. So I just type it out in Google. And again, I know that Eunice works out of Lazada, but you can just take a guess, or you can even go with a most likely profession that Eunice is into, and then just click LinkedIn. So the moment I type this information out, like Google actually parses through the entire LinkedIn network, and it would be able to find me the right connect. So you can do your own, like searches. The more data point that you enter in Google, the more likelihood is that Google will be able to find this particular person for me. Other data points that you can typically use is location. So let's say I choose Singapore. So Google gives me that, okay, you are connected, or there is a connection that you're looking for. Now, instead of this, if I actually used LinkedIn to find a connect like this, it would be relatively more time consuming and time taking. So between Google and LinkedIn, the ideal way to search for a connect is actually Google. So I hope that's clear. Now, moving on to how would you typically connect with a person? So more often than not, humans are likely to connect with you if you give them certain context. So although I work with Akshay in the same organization, if I provide a little bit of context, that increases my likelihood of Akshay accepting back my LinkedIn request. So what I've done over here is, there when you send a connect to a particular person, there is an option which says add a note, and I just put in a note here. And generally what you can talk about in the note is, what do you want to connect for? So what I talked about here is professional learning and discussing upcoming trends like behavioral AI and deep tech in product. So generally something like this helps. Let me also show you a real life example here. So let's say I want to connect with Leonard. So, okay, this is something that's pending, but let's say we'll take Yoon into account. So here's the connection request. Now at the connection request, let's say we have met at work once, and there's an add a note. So this is where you provide a little bit of context in terms of why do I really want to connect with a particular person. And the moment you provide a little bit of context, that shows up in the LinkedIn connection request, and that increases the likelihood of this person accepting my LinkedIn request. So if I really provide some context here, why do I want to connect with you? My chance of connections will increase. So going ahead, what we have done over here is we have created some custom introductory note that you as a designer or researcher can use from Lazada. We have classified it into three parts. One is, let's say you come from a UX background or a UX design background. This is a custom note that has been created by me. So you can just directly copy paste this, change the name here, and send it when you are sending the request. Let's say you want to reach out to an exec. So in the example that I just showed, Yoon was a VP. So how can you send a custom note if you want to reach out to a VP? And sometimes, like let's say you want to reach out to a peer and you would want to keep it short. How can you create a note to keep it short? So that's on the first and second level of LinkedIn Connects. Now, the other part that I wanted to do is talk about how do you grow organically through engagement and show you some examples here. But before that, any questions on the first and second level of LinkedIn Connects? All right. So typically, once you have started adding people into your connects, one of the things that LinkedIn provides you is to create your own content. So while none of us in this particular meeting today are actually social media influencer, but how do you create content without being a social media influencer? So one of the things that you can do is talk about your own rewards and recognition that you get in your organization. The other thing that you can do is you can post your company's facts which are on social media. I'm assuming a lot of people here are from UX, so you don't have to be formal all the time. Sometimes you can be slightly casual. You can share a UX meme. Last part is blurb, which is a micro opinion, and then comes public appreciation, and the last part is the hiring news. So generally, people really appreciate and look into the fact in a economy like this when you are sharing that someone from my team is hiring and commenting on people's post. So these are the like top 5-6 things that you can do to create engagement out of LinkedIn. Now let me show you some real life examples here. So this is my LinkedIn profile, and I have roughly again 7,500 followers out here, 7,400 roughly. And these are some of the things that I have been doing to create engagement out there. So one of the easiest thing that you can do is like a particular post, but that wouldn't create a lot of engagement. The other things that you can do out of this is, so recently our organization got a Series B. So I added a one-liner on top of the information that was shared. And on the bottom left, you can see the total number of impressions. That means how many people out of my network looked into this particular post which I created. So roughly one third of the people looked into it. And I can also get into further drill down of analytics. Who are the most curious person who looked into my post? More often than not, these are product managers, software engineers, account executives. Where are they based out of? You can see a lot of them are based out of India, but I have a lot of connections from Houston as well. So that's where they're based out of. It also gives me some input in terms of what are the industries they are working into. So a big chunk of it is into software development and IT services, but there are also people from financial services, business consulting, and internet. One of the really curious thing that I wanted to show you here is someone has already created a content. I just reposted it with 2 lines from my end. Now that creates way more impression. This is again something that I had done for the Chinese New Year. You can see it's 2200 impressions. But let me show you what happens if I just, like at a bare minimum, just repost it. So this is a job which one of our VPs of engineering is looking towards. It's a tech lead front end developer role. And I just reposted this. But if you can look into it, I mean, it hasn't created any impression. You can see that there are impressions created in the previous part, but this thing has barely created any impression. But at the same time, here is a post where I organically created a content and told it, hey, I'm actually looking for an A, and it got almost 50% of impression from my existing user count. So that's how you can create impression. One of the other thing that I wanted to talk about is we have been coincidentally working with Lazada in the past, and we have worked with Dana. So because we have worked with Dana in the past, I had sent a LinkedIn request to Dana, and again you can see the activities that she has done, and you can see the total number of people who have looked into it, and that also gives you a flavor of what can you create to as a content. So some of it is things that we discussed over here. It's mainly rewards and recognition, public appreciation, recognizing the effort of someone over a social media, hiring news, and a little bit of Lazada's facts and figures, which Lazada's social media page had shared. So let me just show some of that. So here's a session that Levet is going to do, and Dana had shared it, that had created some engagement here. This is about the total number of days she has worked. You can see it has created a lot more engagement. There are 27 different people who have liked it. This is a post by one of the leaders, Adam Grants, and he's mainly into behavioral parts, what part you can change in your habits and all. And these are some of the reposts that have been done in terms of hiring. So you can see this also has a lot of engagement. It has about 23 people who have looked into this. And this is 23 out of 400 people. So 25% of the audience is already engaged. And what happens when you create this natural form of engagement is people would come to you, they would add you into their social connects as well. And that would organically grow your LinkedIn users. So here's another piece from Lazada. This is where the Harris has been, appreciated on International Thank You Day. There's been a lot of people, Eunice as well, Lelaine. So all of these you can see have created a lot of. So there are people who have liked it, including myself, and this has created a lot of positive engagement in the LinkedIn profile of Dana. So that's about it from my end in terms of how do you create content, how do you make sure that your first level of connects are added, how do you make sure that your second level connects is being added on a regular basis. One point I wanted to just reiterate over here is patience and persistence. So one of the things that LinkedIn notices is, let's say you have just 50 connects, but over a period of 1 week, you have sent 100 connects. So LinkedIn notices that change in your pattern where you are trying to add a lot more people. So my advice to you as a team would be start slow. Start off with, let's say, 25 connections a week. And then after you have done it for, let's say, a month, which is 4 weeks, you gradually ramp it up to, let's say, from 25 to 75 a week, and then eventually ramp it up to 100 and keep it at 100, because like I told, it's a game of patience. You have to do it constantly, but it barely takes like 20 minutes in a week's effort to gradually increase your LinkedIn connect. And what you see from here, from my total number of connections, this is also a function of barely 20-30 minutes in 1 week worth of effort. So having said all of that, again, I would want to close my presentation. Wanted to open the floor for any question and answers that you might have.
No one has any questions? Well, it seems like there are no questions.
Okay, got it. And I would just want to, provide this information as well. So my email address is already with you. It's rajsamal@entropiktech.com. So let's say you need some help, you want to understand this content at a deeper level, please feel free to shoot me an email, and happy to help you out. And the other medium that I'm really engaged in is obviously LinkedIn. So feel free to add me in LinkedIn. And if you have any question, we can use the navigator out there or the common messenger out there in LinkedIn. And coincidentally, I'm also in Drink Talk. So I'm there with the name of Raj Samal. Feel free to, if there is a question that you would want to ask on a one-on-one basis, or there's a question that might pop up at a later point of time, feel free to ask me the question, and I would be happy to answer it within 24 to 48 hours of time frame.
Thanks, Raj. Thanks for a great presentation. And thanks everyone for attending the session. The recording will be shared internally, and we will also try to arrange this session again for a wider audience in sometime in future. Okay. Thanks everyone again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Raj. Raj, will you be sharing the slides to us, the deck?
Yes. Who do you want me to send it over to? To you, Harris, or to Soro?
Can share in our group, our Entropik group.
Yeah, definitely.
Post it in the Entropik group.
Sure. I'll do that. Just give me some time. I'll share it in the group as well.
Sure. Thank you, Raj. Thank you, Soro. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.